Well, I think we have to talk about this. We all know that it was going to come up at some point in our show today. James Paxton, this last week, threw a no-hitter in his home country of Canada against the Toronto Blue Jays. What did you guys think of that game?
I thought... Okay, so here's the deal. In Paxton's start before that, he struck out 16 batters in a Mariners loss, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And in my head, there's no way he was going to go out and do better than that, and he did. Like, far and away, did better than that. No-hitter, you can't do much better. So it was just crazy for him to duplicate and succeed the success he had in the start before.
Yeah, I mean, obviously he didn't have the strikeouts, but it was another amazing performance. I was watching the game in like the 4th or 5th inning, and I'm like, oh, yeah, nice. He has no hits. And then I went down to go get a little workout in, and I'm following the game, and I get a notification on my phone. It's like, oh, he still has no hits through 7. And I'm like, oh, crap. So, like, I'm watching the game as I'm on the bike, just pedaling along, and then I, like, hurry up, and then I get home for the 9th inning. And it was just amazing because I feel like, you know, that doesn't happen very often. But, yeah, it was definitely really cool.
Yeah, it was.
I thought it was really interesting because the last time that James Paxton pitched in Toronto, he got knocked out of the game in the 3rd inning.
Yeah.
So to bounce back and in your next outing throw a no-hitter, obviously impressive, but quite impressive coming off of such a poor outing the last time.
And as always, in the rare no-hitters, you could talk about the defense the Mariners played behind him with, you know, the Kyle
Seager's play
diving play towards the third base line, getting up and throwing the runner out at first base. A couple good plays made in the outfield, correct? I think
D. Gordon had a couple.
D. Gordon and Ben Gamel both made some pretty tough catches out there in the outfield. So, you know, you always got to recognize how well the entire team played in a no-hitter situation. It is such an individual
because there's always that one play.
Right. There was one, and it seemed like there were 2 or 3.
Yeah.
On, what was that, Tuesday night? Yeah. So
yes, that would have been Tuesday.
So, I mean, just pretty crazy good performance from James Paxton himself and the Mariners as a whole.
Yeah, that was honestly, that's the happiest I've seen Paxton. Because if he's just like, I don't know, makes a normal face, I guess, he always looks kind of sad and kind of droopy. But like,
yeah,
that was the most I've ever seen him smile, I think, like ever in the Mariners uniform. It was pretty cool to see that, and especially in his home country of Canada.
One other thing that stood out to me real quick before we get away from the accomplishment of Paxton and the M's was Ryan Healy, how excited he was. Every play he got to catch an out. I mean, there was a fist pump and like screaming yes across the diamond. I mean, it was just was cool to see. I mean, it's a Tuesday game in May, right? And something special is happening. But for a teammate of Paxton's and a new guy in Ryan Healy to be so excited on every play, it was fun and refreshing, I think, to see throughout Tuesday night's game.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Well, it kind of seems to me, guys, like everybody remembers where they were when a no-hitter or a perfect game happens because they're so few and far between, but they're so historic. Were you guys doing anything worthwhile while this game was going on?
Well, like I just said, I was working out, but then I rushed home and I was actually FaceTiming my girlfriend, and she doesn't have cable, so I actually like turned the camera around, and all of my housemates and her on the phone were like watching the game and stuff. So it was pretty cool to just be able and experience that because you only get so many opportunities like that every so often.
Yeah, I had a pretty wild night. So during the James Paxton no-hitter, I was in class. I was in my sports psychology class presenting my final project like we talked about earlier in that class. But, you know, I'd look down at my phone, no hits through 6, no hits through 7, no hits through 8. He did it, right? So that was really cool. And then afterwards, on my drive home, the exit I get off of on I-5, I got a flat tire. I could like hear it. It sounded like a door was open. It was flapping, and I was like, well, that's probably not the greatest. And then by the time I'd come to a stop at the bottom of that exit, I could feel the car leaning to the one side, and I was like, yeah, that thing is definitely flat.
Did it just go flat, or?
Yeah, it was just flat. I don't know how it happened. I everything was normal. Got off on the right exit, and things went wrong. And luckily, there's a park and ride at that exit.
Yeah.
And I limped the car over to the park and ride. I parked it, and I was ready to just leave it for the night. That's where the car is going to sit. We'll come back in the morning. We'll deal with it tomorrow. But my wife, Mackenzie, was like, no, let's change the tire. We can change the tire. Let's do it. Right. And so we changed the tire, and it takes us a couple tries. It's a 2003 Lincoln Town Car. Just 2003's finest automobile. That's what I drive on a
By the way,
daily
your
basis.
car is long.
Yes, there's a ton of it.
How do you parallel park that thing?
I don't. I
Oh.
don't do it.
Jeez.
It's a boat, and so there's a spare tire in the trunk. Let's change this tire. So we forget to turn off the air ride the first time we try and jack up the car, and the air ride keeps the back end of the car level no matter what's happening.
Yeah.
Right? It's luxury.
Right.
Right? It's fine. It's a fine car.
2003 Rising Style.
So after we remember that we have to do that, we turn it off. We put the jack in a different spot. We get the car up. We get the tire off. We get the spare tire on. Once we get the car back down on the ground, I look at the spare and I go, well, you know what? That thing's flat too. It hasn't been checked since the Reagan era, and we knew it was flat right away. And I was like, well, if we're going to destroy a tire, it's got to be the spare, not the other one, right?
Yeah.
It makes more sense.
Yeah.
And sure enough, I limped the thing home about a mile and well, I don't even know how far it is. Probably 2 miles to my house from there. Went like 10 miles an hour, less than that, all the way back to my house and destroyed the spare tire.
Hey,
Absolutely
you gotta do
ruined
what
it.
you gotta do to get
Yikes.
home, though, right?
I ruined the wheel. I ruined the tire.
Yeah.
Oh, that's rough.
So
That's
so
why you
when
don't drive on a flat, Christian.
Well, I had no choice.
You had to
I had
get,
no,
you had to get home.
I felt I made the right decision. If I was going to ruin the tire, it was going to be the spare one.
Yeah.
If I was going to ruin the wheel, it was going to be the spare one. And that's what we did.
Yeah, exactly.
So now I'm down a spare tire, and it's going to cost a bit more money than I wanted it to get all that fixed. But I feel like I made the right decision, and that's what I did when James Paxton threw a no.
Made for a
Tying
great
it-
story,
Tying
Christian.
it
Thank
back
you.
all around.
Thank you.
I've got a not quite as good of a story as you, Christian, but I also was in class at the start of the Mariners game, and it's a pretty boring professor,
Sure.
probably. I mean, that's probably fair to say. Kind of an old guy, really dry speaker, not very fun to listen to, but so the guy sitting in front of me had his laptop open, and he had the game pulled up with just the sound muted. So I actually got to see the first 5 or so innings that way before I got to go home and watch the latter half of the game there.
That's clutch, though. Like, I would have loved to have been able to just see it.
That's like the
Start
stuff
to
you see
happen.
in March Madness. Like, everybody has their laptops open, watching the games.
Yeah.
Just the
Oh,
sound,
yeah.
sound muted. Nobody pays attention.
I had a class with Half Athlete Radio alumni, Drew Artisoni, and he would do that all the time.
Yeah. That
Outed
doesn't
him right
shock
here.
me.
It didn't shock me either, but I, watch over his shoulder and check out what was going on. But he had the guts to do it. I did not. I can't do that kind of stuff in a class.
You're always the one who gets caught, huh?
Well, it's just,
Or just feels like you're going to get caught.
and it might be the glasses. For those of you
Oh, yeah.
that have never seen me, I wear glasses on the regular, and if the reflection gets bounced back towards the professor, he's gonna know. They're gonna know what's going on my laptop. So
Yeah.
I
know.
just don't do it.
Yeah.
I could never do it. I'm too much of a goody-goody two-shoe.
Oh, there you go.
But I appreciate it when other people are willing to take the risk that I'm not.
Yeah, for sure,
Yeah.
for sure. Good times. Pretty historic night. James Paxton, way to go.
Yeah.
In Canada too. It's the
First
cherry on top.
Mariners pitcher to pitch a no-hitter outside of Safeco Field or the Kingdome.
That's impressive. Did you know that there's been 3 no-hitters this year in Major League Baseball, and they've
Yes,
all come in different countries?
continents.
Really?
Continents? Countries.
Yeah, countries. I'm sorry. My mind is...
Countries. One happened in the United States. Who threw the one in the United States? Can't remember.
Manaya.
Oh, yeah, Sean
From
Manaea,
Oakland,
the
yeah.
Oakland. Yes.
Yep.
That happened in the U.S., obviously. And then the Dodgers played a series in
Mexico.
and they used 4 pitchers, I think, to combine for a
it
no-no.
was 4 or 5.
And then Paxton did it in his home country of Canada, so weird. Baseball's a
I
weird
feel like
thing.
there's been a lot of no watches this year.
That and
More-
strikeouts.
Yeah, more
Yes.
more than there has been in the past.
Like, it seems like every night after Paxton's 16 strikeout night, there's a graphic on MLB's Instagram. It says, "Oh, so and so had 12.
Yeah.
So and so had 14." Like,
Paxton didn't even get a mention from the MLB Instagram.
that's what happens when you play on the West Coast.
I know, yeah.
I mean, that game got over at 1 a.m. for most of the people who run the MLB accounts.
Yeah,
I'm not saying it's right or wrong.
I
I'm just
know.
saying that's what
That's-
happened.
that's
Did
been
it though?
something
It
that's-
was in Toronto.
no,
No,
the
the
16K.
16K.
Oh, the 16K.
So it started in Seattle at 7:10. When I was in New York for the baseball tournament I umpired, the Mariners were starting at 10 p.m. and I hated it.
You umpired a baseball?
I did that.
Wow.
I did that. You want that story too? I mean, we're just chilling.
Yeah, sure. Why not?
So when I was growing up, I used to umpire Little League games for Federal Way National Little League, and
Yeah.
then that turned into getting some turns with their select ball team, the Federal Way Knights.
Mm-hmm.
And they liked my work. I took literally any game they would give me.
Yeah.
Like there were times where I did like
How old are we talking?
8 and 9 year old girls softball all the way up to 12-year-old majors, boys baseball. So I took everything, and they liked that. And the 12U Knights team, I don't know if it's every year or every so often with that group, that 12U group, they take a trip out to Cooperstown, New York. They go to Cooperstown Dream Park. It's a facility that runs 13 weeks out of the year, and every week like 100 new teams come, and they just shuffle kids in and out. It's baseball heaven. There's 22 fields, just a crazy thing, and each team's required to bring an umpire or rent one, I guess, from the area. And they were like, "Hey, you want to go with us?" And I was like, "Absolutely,
Heck yeah,
let's go do this." Right. So I tricked my dad out, tricked my dad into coming out for the week. So that was kind of a pretty special trip. It was the same year that Ken Griffey Jr. was inducted into the Hall of Fame, so we got to see all of the new Griffey stuff. So yeah, no, that was a really fun trip, and that's how I ended up doing a baseball tournament in Cooperstown, New York.
Dang, we've learned a lot about Christian in the last
story time,
segment.
folks.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with it though.
It was crazy. All the kids and umpires like live in like bunks. It's
Dorms?
cabins, not even dorms really. It's just a long cabin with like bunk beds all over the place, and they like would put umpires on golf carts and just run them down to the quartet of fields because they're all back to back to back in like a circle, and you get in a golf cart and you run down to your game, and then as soon as the game's over, you get back in the golf cart and they take you back to your cabin. I mean, it was crazy. It was a crazy week.
That's dope.
It was a crazy week. You want to take a break now, Seth?
Yeah, we